Ever stood on your own land, feeling the weight of strangers dictating what you can do with every weathered plank and rusted nail? As if your family's history is just clutter in their perfect suburban picture? That's where I found myself, staring down a neighborhood association that thought it could bully me into erasing a century and a half of legacy. My name's Ethan Caldwell, though everyone calls me Cal. At 34, I'm a grid systems engineer, meaning I know the pulse of electricity and water through a community better than most folks know their own heartbeat. 6 months ago, my dad lost his battle with cancer, leaving me his 40-acre farm, a stubborn island in the middle of Willow Creek Estates, a cookie-cutter housing development that sprouted around us like weeds. The heart of Dad's legacy wasn't the farmhouse or the field sit was a barn, built in 1874 by my great-great-grandfather, a towering monument of oak beams and hand-forged iron that could outlast the flimsy McMansions encircling it. Dad spent 20 years restoring it, treating every board like a sacred artifact, and made me swear to finish what he started. That promise turned into a war I never saw coming. Willow Creek wasn't always there. Back in 2010, a developer called Crestwood Properties bought up the surrounding farmland and built 847 identical homes with pretentious names like the Regency and the Haverford. Dad refused to sell, no matter how many zeros they dangled. Our farm became a relic, admired from kitchen windows until the Homeowners Association decided it didn't fit their polished vision. I started the barn restoration on a crisp September morning, using reclaimed wood and traditional methods to preserve its soul. By Wednesday, I had my first visitor, Agnes Lee, a 67-year-old neighbor with a plate of cookies and a warning. Over coffee, she whispered about the HOA's Community Enhancement Plan, a 2-year scheme to erase our barn as an eyesore, dragging down property values. She mentioned whispers of eminent domain, spearheaded by Cynthia Hargrove, the HOA president, a former real estate attorney who ruled Willow Creek like a personal fiefdom. That evening, I dug into the HOA's history and found a trail of 347 complaints over 3 years, forcing homeowners to repaint houses, dismantle garden sheds, even tear down a kid's treehouse. Cynthia was a force, and she showed up Friday morning in a gleaming BMW, her tailored suit screaming authority. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, handing me a folder thick with rules, "your construction violates our architectural guidelines." The 23-page document listed 31 infractions, from non-conforming historical aesthetics to incompatible rural design. I pushed back, pointing out the barn predated her neighborhood by 136 years, but her smile, sharp and practiced, cut me off. Community standards protect 847 families' investments. Your project threatens that. She flashed photos of my barn, some taken from neighbors' yards, and cited 34 resident complaints. This wasn't a discussion, it was a declaration of war, wrapped in corporate courtesy. The next week, Cynthia escalated. She returned with a cease and desist order, backed by the county and a lawyer named Victor Nguyen, who handed me papers threatening $500 daily fines. A compliance officer, Elena Torres, cited unpermitted work and promised a structural inspection within 72 hours. The trap was clear: modern building codes applied to my repairs, making compliance impossible without bankrupting me. If I couldn't afford it, the county could condemn the barn. "You're forcing me to tear it down because I can't make a 150-year-old structure meet codes it was never meant for," I said. Cynthia's smug nod confirmed that was the plan. She even offered to buy the farm, as if my heritage was a line item in her budget. I spent nights in the barn, surrounded by beams that had seen wars and depressions, researching HOA bylaws and property law. The system favored groups with deep pockets, and Cynthia had lawyers, money, and 847 homeowners behind her. But she'd overlooked something. My farm wasn't just land. It was the nerve center of Willow Creek's infrastructure. A 1952 electrical transformer on our property powered 312 homes, including Cynthia's. A 1967 water pump house kept pressure steady for the northern half of the development. Both operated under perpetual easement agreements, giving utility companies access, but leaving ownership and certain controls with me. Every light switch flipped, every faucet turned, depended on my land. Agnes Lee became my ally, slipping me HOA meeting minutes and emails she'd gathered as a retired paralegal. They revealed Cynthia's real plan, a $12.7 million development to raise our farm for 67 new homes and a golf course. She'd been scheming with Crestwood Properties since January, even contacting county officials while Dad was still alive. Worse, she'd siphoned $47,000 from HOA funds to pay her lawyer and funneled $73,000 to a shell company for consulting. It was embezzlement, plain and simple, and Agnes had the bank statements to prove it. Cynthia upped the pressure, hiring security guards from Apex Protection to watch my every move. They photographed me carrying tools, treating me like a criminal on my own land. A colleague, Sam Carter, tipped me off that Cynthia had inquired about relocating the transformer and pump house $2.3 million and $1.8 million projects, respectively, with an 18-month timeline. She'd even asked about temporary service disruptions to make my farm less appealing. That's when I realized I didn't need to fight her in court. I had the switches that kept her world running. I started subtle efficiency adjustments, using my utility software, tweaking voltage to the legal minimum, causing appliances to strain. Air conditioners labored, fridges cycled endlessly, and utility bills climbed 35%. Water pressure dropped just enough to frustrate showers and sprinklers. Residents noticed 127 complaints flooded the HOA within days, but there was no obvious failure to pin on me. Cynthia called an emergency meeting at the community center, powered by my transformer. Over 200 residents packed a room meant for 150, the air conditioning wheezing under my tweaks. Cynthia blamed me for sabotage, painting me as a vindictive rich kid. I stood up, laptop in hand, and asked to speak. The crowd, fed up with spiking bills, demanded it. I opened a live stream, broadcasting to hundreds as I laid out Cynthia's crimes. Bank records flashed on the screen, showing her $47,000 theft and $73,000 in shady payments. Gasps filled the room. Then I showed a real-time map of Willow Creek's utilities, our farm at its heart. Every light, every faucet, runs through my land, I said, displaying the 1952 and 1967 easement agreements. Cynthia's development needs my signature to move this infrastructure. She never had the power she claimed. The crowd went silent, then erupted as her lies unraveled. I saved the knockout for last. Tomorrow at 6 a.m., I'm conducting legal maintenance an 8-hour power outage for 312 homes. The county's approved it. Cynthia's face drained of color. That's extortion, she stammered. Officer Daniel Hayes, who'd served my cease and desist, stepped forward. Cal filed everything properly. It's legal. The outage hit as planned, forcing the HOA's next meeting to a county center under generator power. Agnes presented damning evidence, and residents voted 237-3 to oust Cynthia, referring her for criminal charges. She fled Willow Creek weeks later, facing lawsuits and prosecution. The new HOA board greenlit my restoration and named the barn a historical landmark. 6 months later, I finished the project, using period materials to honor 150 years of grit. Now, neighbors bring their kids to see it, valuing history over conformity. Every night, I watch Willow Creek glow with power flowing through my land and smile. Real power isn't in lawsuits or money, it's in knowing the systems that make life tick and wielding that knowledge with precision. Have you ever outsmarted a bully who underestimated you? Share your story below. Let's break the silence together.